International news now. Nigeria has advocated for a fair and equitable representation in the United Nations Security Council. President Muhammadu Buhari made this through a virtual meeting contribution to mark the 75th anniversary of the United Nations. The president emphasized that pledging Nigeria's commitment to United Nations principle of human rights, peace, security, and democratic governance. He, however, called for reforms of the UN Security Council as a just measure to place Africa in the strategic organ. As such a gesture has been long overdue. Also back at home, President Muhammadu Buhari has appealed to the people of Kaduna State that those who are causing mayhem in Kaduna should learn to live with their neighbors so that peace can be maintained in Kaduna and development will not become an illusion. He was speaking through a virtual opening of the 5th Kaduna Economic and Investment Summit. He said, "Let's live as brothers and sisters," adding that development will only take place when energies are collectively channeled towards building rather than destruction of lives and property. He commended the Kaduna State government for positioning Kaduna State as one of the investment destinations in Nigeria. He asked Kaduna State to sustain its ranking by the World Bank that ranked Kaduna State as #1 or location for ease of doing business in the 2018 reckoning. Kaduna State government has declared 3 days of mourning in honor of the late Emir of Zazzau, Alhaji Shehu Idris. Public offices will open as usual on 21st and 22nd. However, on 23rd, a public holiday had been declared. Flags are to fly at half-mast in honor of the late Emir, who is renowned for peaceful coexistence. During his 45 years of reign as Emir, the state transmuted from North Central to Kaduna State in 1976, and Katsina was exiled from it in 1987. And for the 45 years he ruled, they worked with 20 different governors, both military and civilian. There were 11 military governors, 7 army, 4 air force, and 9 civilian governors. And throughout the time, Alhaji Shehu Idris worked with the PRP, the NPN, NRC, PDP, and APC, and he never suffered any threat of deposition. You recall that emirs were deposed in Sokoto, in Kebbi, and recently in Kano, but throughout his time, he had the tendency to work with every administration. He exemplifies what is often said that Barak, Soya come, Soya go, Barak remains. As an emir, he was father for all, and his attitude to peaceful coexistence permeated. There was a time youths were demonstrating in Zaria, and when he heard about it, he went there himself personally, and when the youths saw him, they scampered, all of them run away. That is the kind of fatherly person he has. Already, succession initiative has begun, and there are about 4 ruling houses, Bari, Malawa, Solubawa, and Kasinawa ruling houses. And already competition is usually low-key, and the competitors have already gone underground. But the 4 front runners include Alhaji Murir Jafaru, the Yariman Zazzau. There is also Alhaji Bashir Aminu Iya Zazzau. There is Alhaji Aminu Shehu Idris Turakin Zazzau. There is also Alhaji Abdul Karim Aminu Wamba Zazzau. And there is Alhaji Ahmed Nuhu Bamali Magajin Gerin Zazzau. The kingmakers will make their selection, but Governor Nasir El-Rufai will be there to confirm who is eventually elected by the kingmakers.
He has been described as one of the last traditional leaders that were able to form a bridge between generations, and the youths have looked up to him for guidance throughout his reign, generations after generation. You know, a very big vacuum has been created and very big shoes to fill there.
Yes, really big shoes. In fact, the University of Abuja has paid tribute to the late Emir because he was for some time the chancellor of the university, and his contribution to that university was quite enormous.
Sad.
The other story which Kingsley read relates to the notice given by the National Association of Road Transport, NARTO, Nigeria Association of Road Transport Owners. They have given a 2-day warning strike, and the argument is that federal government is developing an initiative that says trucks that has capacity beyond 30 tons should not ply our road. And they said that they came to rescue the nation at a time when vandals had taken over and destroyed our pipelines. And they had to now take loans to purchase trucks to help evacuate petroleum products across the country. But now, government is making bold initiative to rehabilitate infrastructure. And they have now pegged capacity for the highway not below 30 tons. Some of their trucks are 45,000 tons. And that is the dilemma. If you allow it, the roads will be destroyed eventually. And they say they have also committed their resources. And this initiative is certainly going to undermine the sacrifice they have made for the nation. So, balancing act. Unfortunately, it is coming at a time when the nation is seeing a spate of strikes. We just succeeded in getting Nigerian Medical Association and Johesu calling off their strike. Already NLC and TUC are threatening to go on strike based on increase in fuel pump price and electricity tariff. And here you have NARTO 2 coming. But the good thing is that they can't sit down and jojo. What will probably will happen is that if your truck is 40,000 capacity, maybe you limit the loading capacity to 30,000 so that at least the roads, the highways will not suffer. Because it will become penny-wise, pound-foolish if we allow that to invest substantially in infrastructure and trucks, especially cement too. We have cement quite going heavy across the country, quite heavy.
Quite heavy.
In no time, you see that the roads will not last.
So what?
Well, Bayo, I mean, you keep, I know that it's a slip. You keep referring to 45,000 tons. It's actually 45,000 liters.
Okay.
Yes, liters. The government now says that they shouldn't have a capacity more than 30,000 liters. But a number of the trucks were converted or were bought to now be conveying 45,000 liters. I don't see the argument of the Road Transport Owners Association or the drivers against a directive by government. There are good reasons that you have already articulated why the vehicle owners should comply with the directive by government.
Simple.
Axle load is regulated by government, not by vehicle owners or by drivers. And they damage the roads, and there's also the hazard. We have seen fuel tankers involved in accidents on our highways. Two major causative factors. One, some of them, you will have the tank itself, 45,000 liters or more. In the meantime, the cab is of a smaller capacity, of a lower capacity. It's like putting a load that is heavy on a child's head. Of course, the child will have, as Nigerians will say, K-leg, you find that in dictionary, and then after a while, the load will collapse. So that is why you find sometimes the cab detaches from the tank, or at some other point, you have all kinds of accidents involving all these tankers. So what is the argument that you have made your investment? Fine, you made your investment. If you were making your investment, you should have had recourse to the regulations governing the axle load you are supposed to apply on our highways. I don't think that this is the kind of blackmail that the Nigerian state has been subjected to by all kinds of interest groups and forces. On the one hand, I believe that maybe the Ministry of Labour and Employment ought ordinarily to have either a summit or a retreat or a workshop on incessant strikes. You have just mentioned a while ago, we're getting out of Johesu strike. After a while, NADA, or the Resident Association of Doctors, will come. ASU says technically they are still on strike. Yes, Polytechnics will join them. College of Education will join them. People are just taking advantage of the Nigerian state. There are rules and regulations. And we must be frank about it. You also mentioned cement. When you see the number of tires that those flatbed trucks have, and they are conveying cement. Ordinarily, in the past, we were told that they couldn't take more than, say, 600 bags of cement. I'm sure some of them are taking up to 900, 1,000 bags of cement. So that you just take the journey once. It is not a matter of taking the journey once. As you are going, you are damaging and destroying our roads, and then sometimes you find them packing dead weight on the bridges.
On bridges,
yes.
Along Lokoja-Abuja Highway, if you notice before the reconstruction, you see that portions of the asphalt had folded.
Absolutely.
This was due to excess weight.
Excess weight. They stay there for days, especially when the vehicles get spoiled. They stay there for days and for a very long time. That's
just before you take the editorial. That is part of the reason why when there were way bridges in the past, particularly on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway at the beginning of the old toll gate by 7-Up in Lagos. Unfortunately, we don't have way bridges in the country. No, if you introduce way bridges, that's fine. one way out for the tanker owners and so on and so forth. Fine, you have made your investment for 45,000 liters. If you go to the loading bay, DPR and all those supervising them, they should not load more than 30 liters.
Yes.
Simple.
In the meantime, until those vehicles deteriorate and they are written off, and then you cannot get new investments. But to say that because of that you will no longer work, fine, stay out of work. We will all stay at home. We won't have petrol, but you cannot blackmail the state.
Government. Well, let's now go to the editorial, and it's talking about avoidable tragedy. The onus of checking accidents at rail crossing is both on motorists and the railway authorities. I'm just going to read a little out of it.
Right.
In yet another chapter of the nation's harvest of recurring but avoidable deaths, 2 persons reportedly died and 6 others injured last Monday after a train hit a commercial bus and a sports utility vehicle in Lagos. And the editorial went on to say that we do agree that motorists have the obligation to respect the rules on railway level crossings, but then so do the railway authorities. They have a more onerous task to secure the tracks and put in place the mechanism to keep such incidents at bay.
Well, for a long time, our railway had gone under, and therefore rail tracks and level crossing across the country has virtually been abandoned.
Yes. And
the hazards on the highway, especially giving railway the right of way, has always been ignored. Last week, it happened. The train was coming, and 2 buses that went on the trail had to be tracked along the rail line for almost 800 meters before eventually the train was able to stop. In the process, I think 2 persons died, but there were other 20 persons, but luckily they suffered injuries. Some were treated there, and only 2 that were seriously injured were taken to a hospital. But if you go across the Nigerian track, at the level crossing in Yaba, you see traders putting on their goods on the track. If you come across up to Mina, just after the railway station, when you are crossing, there's a market there. Traders put their goods and services on the rail track. At Kaduna, behind the Kaduna Central Market, there are traders who trade there along the rail line. And all these places, they are supposed to be level crossing, but because train has not been working for a long time, they have been abandoned. Yes, there is responsibility for motorists, because on the highway, you have to know that when there is indication of a level crossing, when you are approaching the rail line, you have to check, slow down and check before you go. And also, the railway has its own responsibilities. Because the railway crossings have been abandoned for a long time, they need to introduce them. And usually, they used to place men there with red flags, yellow and black flags, and whenever the train is coming, you hear them blow their whistle, raise their flag, and they will close the gate. That has gone a long way to save some traffic accidents between trains and vehicles. The trains must have their right of way, and if our trains are coming back, it means that the responsibility is both on motorists and the railway authority to ensure that level crossings do not become venues for hazards, for accidents.
Okay, Bayo, thanks. Just a point to take from what you said about our railway system having been abandoned for so long. I want to tie that back to the issue we were discussing earlier about tankers.
Tankers, yes.
Dr. Samuel Ogbemudia, everybody knows him. May his soul rest in peace. He was military governor of Edo State, and for 3 months in the Second Republic, he was civilian governor of Bender State. Now, Babangida administration appointed him as sole administrator of the Nigerian Railway Corporation. And being a go-getter, he set about, seeking to revamp the railways. And we were just saying now that the railways were abandoned for so long a time. As he was, of course, saying, look, I want to achieve results in this sector, but he said it. He was approached by haulage truck owners who told him, well, don't know, we see the work you are doing. Don't forget that we have bought trucks. We borrowed money to buy these trucks. We are going to have to repay. If the railway is working, how are we going to now break even to be able to repay and then, of course, begin to be in business? Pure blackmail.
Yes. He said, you want to take food from our mouth. That was the literal way of putting it.
I'm putting it.
Very sad.
And then
that was even then.
Yes.
But so today, when we are saying, everybody, we have seen the consequences of the neglect of the railways on our transport infrastructure. So must a state, I use the state now in the capital, that's as a country or a nation,
be held to ransom.
Be held to ransom by business interest groups and so on and so forth.
One train can have up to 15 wagons that can convey 33,000 liters that it will take about 15 tankers to convey.
Absolutely. All right, Bayo, on the level crossing, everybody has to be careful, as you just indicated. Yes. And those who have responsibility for maintaining level crossing should maintain them. Bayo Atoyebe, thanks a lot for being around today. See you again tomorrow. All right, it's Good Morning Nigeria, and we are live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We're Africa's largest TV network. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we shall be discussing auto gas. Is it potentially cheaper than petrol? And what are the issues in getting it in Nigeria?
Guess what?
What?
I scored a hat trick today.
Cool.
Wow.
And how did you celebrate?
Just do your hands like this.
And hold your nose like this.
Body odor is caused by germs. That's why you need the new improved Dettol Cool Soap, which protects against 99.9% odor-causing germs with an extra burst of menthol freshness. Dettol, be 100% sure.
NTA TV College Jos, an affiliate of Ahmadu Bello University Zaria, is currently admitting students for its ordinary diploma programs in television journalism, television production, and television engineering. Interested candidates are advised to obtain relevant information concerning eligibility at our website at www.ntatvc.edu.ng or marketing department of any NTA station nationwide. For further information, contact Assistant Director, Marketing, NTA TV College Jos on 0803-314-4383 or the Academic Office of the College on 0806-980-9807. Announcer, Registrar.
Our discussion on autogas. Let's watch the opinion of a cross-section of Nigerians on the subject matter.
Doing what they say they will want to do for us from 1st of October by converting the fuel so that we can make use of the gas as an alternative to fuel. I think it's a very welcome idea, and they should go an extra mile by sensitizing the masses so that a lot of people will be aware of what is going to happen.
At least we are going somewhere. We'll start like this, we're going somewhere. If gas is cheaper than fuel, it's a good development.
I think it's going to be fantastic for Nigerians. The leaders cannot choose what is not best for the citizens. I believe they know why. My only hope is it should be available readily to down to the villages where readily available and accessible. I think it is going to be a perfect idea.
From my own opinion, if government can do this, it will be better. Despite there will be challenges, if government can make it available at every time and everywhere, I think it will help Nigerians. What they should do is all the people that they are saddled with that responsibility, they should be up and doing. That's all.
The demand in petrol will fall. If this thing comes to be in reality, actually it is going to fall because people will no longer consider petrol as all and all, because these days petrol serves so many things, serve for vehicles, serve for generator and all that, even barbing salon and all that, they use it. But when that is in place, I think the demand will fall, and it's a good development.
When they do it that way, you go for either petrol or you go for gas. But in a situation like that, the price of petrol will come down, and it will be much more easier for those that prefer using petrol, because that is what we are used to for now.
All right, a cross-section of Nigerians there speaking on the proposed conversion of vehicles and generating sets to utilize auto gas. We have with us in the studios to discuss this issue Justice Derefaka. Mr. Justice Derefaka, by the way, is not a judge. He's been our guest on Good Morning Nigeria. He is technical advisor to the Honorable Minister of State Petroleum, and he's Remit covers gas business and policy implementation, as well as being the program manager, auto LPG penetration in the National Gas Expansion Program. Derefaka, a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Also here with us in the studios is Dixon Iwarime. He's a local fabricator of LPG tanks. Dixon, pleasure to have you with us on Good Morning Nigeria.
Good Morning Nigeria.
Okay. All right, let's begin the conversation with Justice Derefaka. About a fortnight ago, we had the Honorable Minister of State Petroleum on Good Morning Nigeria, along with the Honorable Minister of Finance. And of course, the kernel of our conversation centered on matters arising from the full deregulation of the downstream of the petroleum sector. And of course, in the course of that conversation, they did say what was in the pipeline with regard to alternative fuel for vehicles in Nigeria other than petrol and perhaps AGO. So this morning, of course, we are drilling into the issues arising from the proposed conversion of vehicles to auto gas. So just give us a background, exactly what are we getting into with auto gas, and what is auto gas in the first instance?
All right, thank you very much. Let me just first of all try to pinpoint where this started all came from policy point of view. Now, if you look at the National Gas Policy approved by the Federal Executive Council in 2017, in particular, Chapter 8, Section 8.4, it clearly addresses the use of gas for as alternative fuel, even for your homes and, of course, for vehicle and prime movers. Now, so when the Honourable Minister came on board and we looked at the issue, the age-long issue about fuel subsidy, which now has been deregulated, I like to use the word liberalized, downstream sector, the Honourable Minister said, look, gentlemen, we are a gas play nation as opposed to a crude oil play nation. We need to begin to harness our abundant natural gas resources to make sure that these impact positively on the lives of the common Nigerian. And then he said, now when we deregulate the downstream sector, we need to give Nigerians alternative fuel, which is gas. Now, some pundits, or if you like, critics will say, but gas is still fossil fuel. The truth of the matter is a cleaner fuel that is a closest ally to renewables. And again, what this does is that it helps improve the pollution that comes from using petrol or diesel. Number two, there are socioeconomic benefits that Nigerians need to know about. And it equally reduces our CO2 emission, which, by the way, Mr. President, when he attended the COP21 conference with the United Nations leaders, committed to reducing the greenhouse gas, of course, using gas as a resource to make sure we drop that, and then plus committing to reducing gas flare, which we flare, our carbon emission is around 22 million tons. Now, the Honourable Minister in his wisdom said, okay, we know the national gas policy to have that success factor, certain fundamental issues need to be addressed. Gas pricing, which I will speak to say why gas is actually cheaper, affordable, accessible, and even reliable. So what the Honourable Minister is doing in terms of pushing and making sure that this come to fruition is to give assurance to investors and, of course, Nigerians that the national gas policy is reliable and it is stable. So we're not going to change the game, the rule of the game midway. And so he's now going ahead to make sure that he commits to passing the PIB, which will address so many gamut issues that the national gas policy highlighted. So apart from the gas pricing, there is issue of infrastructural deficit, which of course I will speak to. I know you're taking because when we say we will be using gas, as the world people will be asking, but our fuel stations don't have gas dispensers. So that is a foundational issue, especially in the gas subsector, infrastructural deficit, pipelines, and that's why good thing is that we have technology that has come to stay in terms of using virtual pipelines, which of course will address the issue of I listened to the comment from the analysts that say that provide gas to the villages. That's what virtual pipeline will address. And we have a virtual integrated pipeline association that we're speaking to that will address those issues. Now, the other bit is a sanctity of contracts that the national gas policy addressed, and creating an enabling environment, and of course, making sure that there is incentives for the gas business. Now, in all of this, the national gas policy clearly, the approach or the determination, or if you like, the mission is that we gradually, so it's a strategic shifting in terms of government focus from a crude oil-based exporting nation to a gas-based industrial nation. So the Honourable Minister, in his wisdom, said the focus of the national gas policy, even though we're looking at international market, key is domestic gas utilization, deepening that, and of course making sure that it penetrates and gets into the nooks and crannies of the country.
Well, Justice, thank you very much. But I would like you to still take the question that I posed.
Yes.
You have touched on the, shall we say, the headwaters.
Correct.
Of the national gas policy. That's fine. But our viewers this morning will obviously be more interested in getting more information and, of course, answers to questions that are bothering them with regard to the introduction of gas as an alternative to petrol. So, what is auto gas?
Good. So that's what I was coming from before you stopped me. So now when we say auto gas is predominantly propane. I'll try to bring it down, not to be too technical. So auto gas is liquefied petroleum gas in liquid form. So for the common man, it's the same cooking gas. But for vehicles and other prime movers, we call it auto gas. Some people call it propane auto gas. Now, there is another strand of gas that will serve as alternate fuel for vehicles and other prime movers, which is natural gas vehicles. So this natural gas vehicle use compressed natural gas, CNG, and liquefied natural gas, which are in natural gas form. So they have their different, if you like, C1 to C4 series. Now, I will not mention that, but for purpose of our discussion today, so when I say auto gas for the common Nigerian, we're looking at LPG, we're looking at CNG, even though CNG and LNG is called natural gas, NGV, but I will say auto gas. So when I say auto gas, I'm talking about auto LPG, auto CNG, and auto LNG. So now what we're doing is that we want to bring this gas for fuel stations to co-locate this product, so that when the common Nigerian man gets to the fuel station, again, after he has converted his vehicle to run on dual fuel. So those vehicles that are running on petrol, you can actually convert your vehicle to run on petrol, if it's on diesel, and on gas as well. It could be LPG, it could be CNG, it could be LNG. Predominantly, LNG is for heavy-duty trucks and vehicles, the likes of Dangote trucks and some other trucks that some other heavy-duty investors are using. Now, so if you go to the fuel station, you see the price of PMS is telling you 161, and then you see the price of auto gas going for maybe 80, 19 naira per standard cubic meters. Nobody will tell you to say you go for gas, as opposed to petrol, which is going to be 161, which is 161 now. And so what we are doing now is to make sure that we address this issue of making these products available at fuel stations across the country. Now the question will be, do we have the infrastructure? The answer is no, we don't. But I'd like to state here that prior now, in this country, there are over 10,000, if not 15,000 vehicles that are running on CNG and auto gas. Predominantly in Edo State, by NIPCO, and of course in Lagos State. So those even in Abuja here right now, there are some fuel stations that have auto gas dispensers. So what we did as part of a strategic shift to make sure that we have this in place, the Minister, of course, working with the NNPC, the GMB, NNPC, Mele Kyari, and his team, is to use government-owned refueling stations, NNPC retail refueling stations, 46 of them across the country for the co-location of this product. And so now we're trying to have a pilot for the rollout, which our Minister will come up with in Q4 2020. So when this rollout comes up, the second phase will be to make sure that these products are in all NNPC stations And so anybody can drive into any of these stations. And as well, now beyond doing that with NNPC stations, we're equally engaging the investors, the likes of Moman, DABMA, IBMA, NATO, and National Road Transport Workers, and all the critical stakeholders in this way. We've not rested on our oars. Now the idea is this. We want them to see the big picture coming, to say, this is your business running fuel stations. This is your business supplying a petroleum product. So we needed to key into this new business, which has a lot of investment opportunities, so that when people begin to buy gas that is cheaper and they don't buy your petrol, you don't run out of business. So you too need to begin to see that picture and key into this and begin to do that co-location in your fuel station. So as we speak today, across the country, our stakeholders are beginning to get the products and making sure that they do have this co-location even during the rollout. So it's going to be in phases. We cannot get it 100%, we must say that. And the other minister said, look, let's get it going, let's push it in to make sure that these products are there in NNPC stations and, of course, with the third-party stations. Now, in terms of converting your vehicle, which is another one, so what Nigerians will say, how do I convert my vehicle? Where do I go to? So for every fueling station, including an NNPC station, the idea is that you drive in and you get your vehicle converted. And it takes minimum of around 6.5 hours to 7 hours, because they check the vehicle to see that it's fit for conversion. They do the testing, and after that, you get certified. And then you can start running on dual fuel. So that's how far we've gone. We've equally looked at, maybe I'll pause if you have another question. We looked at safety issues.
We'll talk about that when we, in the customer.
Perfect, exactly.
Yes.
So I'm just trying to give a high-level summary of the whole gamut of the autogas scheme.
Yes.
So we looked at safety issues. We looked at concerns people have with gas explosion. We've had issues about cylinders exploding. And that takes us to issues around substandard products coming into the country. So all of those are being handled by the National Gas Expansion Program, the brainchild and flagship program of the Honourable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources. Now, to take one step.
You know what? We're going to have to pause you. Yeah, we're going to have to pause you so that we
can bring
our
in
viewers
Mr.
can
Dixon,
also catch their breath and then listen to the other guests who's here with us in the studios.
Yes, Mr. Dixon, the ambition to drive the diversification of the application of gas to Nigerians, and the Minister of State even started with his ministry, converting cars to gas and all that. I believe there must have been a survey, a research to, test the acceptability of gas in Nigeria. So when do you think, you are doing it already, and when do you think Nigerians can key into it? As, the process is so long. When will we start fully using it? And what is the advantages of using autogas now?
Well, the advantages of using autogas, just like the Refeka has said, is enormous. We that fabricate LPG tanks, CNG tanks, and what have you, pressure tanks, we have the human capacity to support this venture. But just like he has rightly said, there's infrastructural deficit that has to do with the mechanics of getting that done. When we talk about the human knowledge, we have the capacity to support and to get it achieved. So, the issue of safety, just as he said, though we've not got there yet, has to do with the integrity of the facilities that we use. We have good fabricators of LPG tanks, and so far, almost most of us, the LPG tanks fabricated here in Nigeria is as good as any you get outside the country. They are mostly of ASME standard. We have the regulatory authorities here in Nigeria, like Standard Organization of Nigeria. We equally have the DPRO that comes into some of our facilities without any prompting, just to come and see and oversight what is being done there. So we are actually available to support this drive and to get the the target of the government achieved.
Well, Dixon, I mean, let's just stay with you. You fabricate LPG tanks,
yes,
gas tanks. You fabricate CNG tanks. What is the difference in terms of physical appearance of between an LPG tank and a CNG tank? LPG tank is the liquefied petroleum gas tank. That's the so-called, the one that we find commonly in use in our homes.
Yes.
So how is that different from the CNG tank, that is the compressed natural gas tank, or the one that is used for auto gas?
Almost no difference. The only difference there is the chemical composition of the metals that are used. I don't want to go technical because of we are speaking to Nigerians. We just make it easy for everybody to understand. When we get our plates, you have what we call the mild steel, and you call it have the carbon steel. Those are technical terms. So when we are fabricating for LPG, we use the mild steel plates, and they are of certain standards. The codes are there. We follow the codes, and we equally follow the standards to get them done. And those codes and standards we use, they are called ASME, American Society of Mechanical Engineers Code, Section 8, Volume 1. Those codes are the same codes that the NIS, Nigerian Institute, that is Standard Organization of Nigeria, equally adopted. So when we get those standards, if we are fabricating for LPG, there are codes and standards for that. We go with that. When we are fabricating for CNG or any other pressure tank, we look at what codes that applies to that product, and we go ahead and use those codes. And with those codes, we get the best of results.
In appearance, the LPG tanks and CNG tanks don't look alike, do they?
No, they look alike. They look alike. For example, a 10-ton tank is about the same shape. The only difference is just the chemical composition of the plate you are using. Most of the ski tanks you find at the filling stations, they are about 10 tons. There are those that equally use a smaller one, they call the 2.5 tons. When you go to a regular gas plant, you may have a 30-ton tank, which is about 55,000 liters. But the shape still remains the same. Now, some clients may tell you that I don't want a 2.5 meters tank. A 2.5 meters simply means the size of the tank will be short, but the height will be long. There are those that will tell you that I don't fancy high tanks. I want a horizontal long one, maybe something of about 8 meters. So with that, you now find out that the diameter is the height of the roundness of the tank. So with that, the diameter will now be small, and the tank will now become very long. But all the same, in all and all, they all look alike.
No, I don't know. Juma, let's clarify this. See, you know welders,
yes.
If you go to an automobile workshop, XYZ, you see whether you kind of tanks that, gas tanks that they have, that they use for welding purposes. And then you also find a regular gas tank that you use in your homes. It is either 12.5 kg, which is more common, or the other one they call, is it 50 kg or something that is one long one. So which is the size that is it the 12 kg type that you are going to put inside your boot when the boot is reconstructed, or which are the ones that you can construct or you can fabricate for the use of auto gas?
Oh, you're talking about tanks to be installed into the
vehicle,
cars.
yes,
into the
the
vehicles.
That's my question, yes.
Okay, no, that's
Since
different.
we're going to convert the vehicles to gas.
Okay, no, we don't do that. There are those who specialize in doing those cylinders. It's very technical. And so far, I think we have just about few of them here in Nigeria that does that. But we that fabricate the regular LPG tanks we find at the co-location stations is talking about are the big ones that is there. But for those other smaller ones that they fit in, that retrofit in there, it's more special. It's more complex.
It's more complex. Don't you think that, when we start converting, it would lead to massive importation of this needed equipment at a time of scarce foreign exchange? And will it be affordable to Nigerians?
No, in the long run, it will be affordable.
In the long run, but not immediately.
For example, a regular pressing tank for those that fabricate LPG tanks is about $600,000, which is about $270 to. It's about $600,000. Now, for that $600,000.
$600,000.
Yes.
100,000.
100,000.
Yes.
$600 or $600,000.
$600,000.
Okay.
It's about 6 times 424. It's about 270,000. It's about 270 million naira, going by the current exchange rate.
Mm-hmm.
Let me come in here. The cylinders we're talking about for auto gas conversion comes in different forms and shapes. Very, very different forms. Some come in the form of a donut that can fit in where you have your spare tire under your car. Some can be fitted in your boot. Some can be fitted under your seat. So they come in different forms and shapes. Horizontal, and then you have the predominant one. And technology has improved over time. It's been proven over time because use of auto gas globally has been there for the past 75 years. And again, all those issues have been taken care of. Now, it is what is in the cylinder that differentiates the auto gas converted vehicle, just like he did mention. It could be the same cylinder, steel tank, 10 times reinforced than the petrol tank, which we will talk much later. It depends on the question you ask in terms of safety and if there is a high impact, because several tests have been done. Now, when this product get on for the heavy-duty vehicles, you see the cylinders comes in array. So you could have maybe 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 cylinders at the back of the truck that has CNG, that's running on CNG. Small cylinders, and then they're all configured to supply the gas to the engine. So those cylinders come in different forms and shapes. Yeah.
Let's take a step back. You know, I was asking about it might lead to massive importation of the needed equipment at a time of scarce foreign, at the Ministerial Mandate Performance Scorecard Review session in August, you said, and I quote, the use of gas automobiles would reduce poverty in Nigeria. How so?
Employment.
So? Okay.
It will generate employment. So I'll make it very simple for you.
Listen.
Right now, we don't have in-country capacity to convert vehicles. So there is paucity or that lack of technical competence. Now, by the time we come up with this drive and push to make sure that we convert vehicles in country across the 6 geopolitical zones, we need to train personnel to be competent to do those conversions, because we need to have as much as several conversion centers in the country. So the equipment will be, of course, will be imported into the country, and which is why the Honourable Minister has approached the central bank and gotten a loan facility of 250 billion as part of stimulus package for the gas sector, particularly for the National Gas Expansion Program. Now, when this equipment come in, we're not looking to bring in experts from overseas to do this. Already in country, there are investors and businesses that have this expertise. But again, what we need to do, because we need to deepen this, is to train Nigerians to be able to do this conversion in conversion base where these conversion centers will be located. So that is where you have somebody that is poor, he doesn't have a job, you pick him up and then you train him, and then he becomes gainfully employed. That's addressing poverty.
Okay, Justice, there are many legs to this this conversation, but maybe let's just focus on the cylinders. It's like it's the equivalent of your fuel tank, as it were. Now, do you have an idea of how many vehicles we have on Nigerian roads at the moment? Some years ago, we were told there was about 10 million.
Thereabout.
And that half of those vehicles could be found in and around the Lagos area. I don't know what the numbers are now. If you have an idea, you can also brief us. So, assuming you wanted to convert a fraction of those vehicles to now be using auto gas, what are the issues that will pop up? One, do we have let us assume you want to convert 500,000 or even 1 million vehicles to now have access to dual fuel advantages. Do we have access to 1 million cylinders?
Conversion kits.
To retrofit, or we're going to have to import them? These are the kind of things that people will be thinking about. I've just been wondering.
Interesting, very good question. Now, in country, we have over 1 million conversion kits.
We have what?
Over 1 million conversion kits for vehicles. We've done the inventory. We've had discussions with the investors that have them across the 6 geopolitical zones. And we've had engagement with them to say, how can you spread this across the country? Because most of them have their catchment area and their footprints to make sure that they have these conversion kits in those locations. So we have over 1 million that we can address comfortably in Q4 2020. Now, there are other fuel stations and conversion centers that are upgrading their facilities to make sure that they meet up with this demand, because for them it's business, big business. And in this country, we have state-of-the-art training centers that can train Nigerians to be very, very good in terms of conversion. And then the issue about standards, quality control and quality assurance come into play, which is where the Standard Organization of Nigeria and the Department of Petroleum Resources come into play to make sure that every vehicle that is converted meets up with international standards and best practice, which of course will allay the fears of Nigerians. So the conversion kits are in country, they're there. Matter of fact, some of them, immediately the airports were open, have started receiving their products from overseas. Because we started doing this during the lockdown. So the engagement discussions were still ongoing. While people were in lockdown, the Honorable Minister was just whooping us around to make sure that we get this thing right, and that is what we're doing. So we have conversion kits in this country that can convert up to 1 million vehicles in country. And the Honorable Minister, during our performance review, handed these vehicles to the National Gas Expansion Program to convert his vehicles and even his generators to run on gas. That's demonstration of leadership. We're doing the same with Aso Villa to make sure that we'll power Aso Villa with compressed natural gas. The NNPC having conversations with the OEMs to make sure that they do the same thing. And the minister has mandated, said, now that I've given my vehicle to demonstrate that, others should equally follow suit.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Justice. We hear our Zoom network is ready. We have Colonel Osigwe, Head Corporate Communications, Innocent Motors. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
You're welcome, ma'am. Good morning, ma'am.
Yes, you've been listening to our conversation talking about auto gas and acceptability in Nigeria. Let's look at you, as Innocent Motors, you've been manufacturing, different type of cars in Nigeria. Let's look at you from the private sector. How will you be able to key into this 2020 year of gas policy for Nigeria? We seem to have lost the... Okay, it's back.
No, Innocent Vehicle is a vehicle manufacturing company. And we have studied the auto gas scheme, and it's not something that is new. It's something that is that's been happening in some of the Western communities, in Europe, in America. So it's not something that is new to us. So at Innocent Vehicles, we are ready to key into the FG scheme on auto gas, on producing convertible engine options for those that want to use gas and those that want to use the LPG. So we are ever ready for that.
Well, Colonel, let's clarify a point. You just mentioned now that you are ready to provide engine conversion. That's what you said, engine conversion. Give us some mechanical insight, if you have the expertise, into whether there are any differences between the so-called liquid fuels like petrol and diesel and gaseous fuels such as compressed natural gas. do you need to fit in new pipes and get your engines properly sorted out? I'm asking this question because if you use cars in those days, there was a time people were using carburetor and did not get to the use of fuel injector and so on and so forth. Are there mechanical issues to worry about in the use of either petrol or diesel versus auto gas?
Okay, I want you to understand something that is very important. At Innocent Vehicles, we don't produce engine, we buy engine from the engine manufacturers. What we do is to produce the carcass of the vehicle and the body, then the engine, we buy it from the engine manufacturers. So, but I know that the company, the technicians that we have the capacity to be able to convert most of these engines to use auto gas. Nevertheless, we also have experts that in Nigeria here, companies in Nigeria here that can be able to do that. So it depends on which side our clients or customers want. We can refer them to some of the experts that are into that already, or on the long run, our technicians can be able to convert the existing engine that is using fuel, diesel to the LPG. But one thing is clear is that the engines that are being used in our vehicles now are engines we buy from the engine manufacturers according to our specifications. So the same family that produces engine for most of the big known brands, they also produce engine for us, and we give them specifications of what we have. Now that the government is talking about, we are keen going into the auto gas scheme, we will also be speaking to these manufacturers to be able to produce some of these engines that are convertible, that can use fuel or can use the LPG.
Okay, Cornell, thanks. Once again, Justice, let's clarify this. This is the question that I was asking. Is the process so simple, as you said, 6 hours you drive into an NNPC station and they fit your vehicle with the gas cylinder, and after 6 hours you drive off. You don't need to worry about pipes, you don't need to worry about the engine, the type, and so on and so forth. What are those things? I mean, speak to this.
Very well. Let me make it very simple. So these conversion kits have already been configured to fit into an existing petrol-run vehicle. So all just you need, the major component actually for a typical vehicle to be converted is the cylinder, the tank, the gas tank. Once you've found a space for it, either the rear, you just need to pass the pipes into the engine. It does not affect the vehicle. So at the end of the day, you just have a switch at the dashboard. If you're running on gas, you switch it to gas. If you're running on petrol, you switch it to petrol. Because what comes with this conversion kit, especially for the tank, is that there are multi-valve configuration there that addresses inflow into the engine, that addresses in case of fire. That's what we call an electronic solenoid valve that shuts in immediately so that it doesn't supply gas into the engine to cause explosion. Then in case so now for the typical tank, you don't fill it up to 100%, you fill it at 80%. And that creates room for allowance in case of temperature difference to avoid explosion. Then there is another valve that releases the gas to vent it out to avoid fire. So all of these things takes a minimum of 6 to 7 hours. And then you just need 1 hour to do a test drive and come back and then you get certified.
It's free.
The minister said, like I said, yes, it's free. Just go in and then get your vehicle converted and then start using the gas.
You know, we're talking at a total reorientation of the way Nigerians think, because, you know, we're looking at people, no matter how expensive petrol is, people are ready to buy, even across the world. So it's a total reorientation. We're talking about this policy. Have we really reached out to the people who are going to, be involved in changing their cars, converting their cars. Have we really, really talked to the people on this policy change?
Oh, yes. We've done some awareness, so to speak. And we now in the National Gas Expansion Program, there's a subcommittee on awareness. Now we've come up with a roadmap to have a roadshow, because we found out that getting feelers from the public that people have concerns with safety. People have concerns with, am I going to be sitting in my car on a time bomb? So those things need to be cleared out now.
I would think like that too.
I agree.
Especially when you are sitting in at the
back seat and then
corner
that you know that this is where they sit. We get all of that.
It's unimaginable.
I agree. Yeah. But what we need to ask ourselves is that for the past 10 years, the likes of NIPCO, including Dangote, they've been using this CNG to run their trucks, and they're saving billions of naira by using CNG. Now I'll tell you what. So in terms of those issues, the awareness is going to be there. We have to do massive awareness. The Honourable Minister has already mandated, gentlemen, I need you guys to make sure that Nigerians have that assurance that they will not be sitting on a time bomb.
Yes.
So we're going to explain that. And that's to explain the safety measures that are put in place, and of course the quality assurance and quality control that the Standard Organization of Nigeria is making sure that every vehicle that's going to meet up with the codes, the specifications, and the testing standards. So what we need to now be addressing is to avoid quack conversion centers. Exactly. So every conversion center must be certified by Standard Organization of Nigeria, and DPRO will be there to watch that you comply. Because the Department of Petroleum Resources' role is, as a business enabler, is to make sure you do the right thing while you make return on your investment. So all those issues are there now. Beyond the safety issues, what we are seeking to do is to, again, demonstrate the socioeconomic and environmental benefit of using gas as a cheaper, cleaner fuel as opposed to petrol that causes pollution, carcinogenic impact. Because when you inhale these fumes that come from it affects your health as well. Then in terms of socioeconomic benefit, you get a cheaper fuel, cheaper gas, and then your engine runs cleaner and safer. So if you use petrol, for instance, if you go to the mechanic every month or every quarter, it takes you 6 months to go to the mechanic when you're running on gas. Yes, indeed. And then you save 40 to 45% savings in terms of fuel.
You know what, Justice?
Yes, please.
Let's, again, be mindful of our environment. It is not every car owner that goes to an upscale servicing station or an upscale servicing firm to say, look, my vehicle is due for servicing or have mechanical issues, take care of it where they have all the facilities. When people want to service their cars or they have issues, they go to the mechanic. Here, I think there's a place they call Akpo Mechanic Village in Abuja. There is no city you will go to in Nigeria where you don't have a mechanic village. In Lagos, they are in different locations. I'm just wondering, I'm sure this is part of what you will have to worry about going forward. Because those who maintain your vehicles, are they on the same page with you? Do they have the same expertise and knowledge? Look at a typical example. Sometimes when they want to fiddle with some things, work on your engine or so, or sometimes you see them, they remove one pipe and then you suck out the petrol. Is that the way they are going to be sucking out the gas? Yes. This guy, I mean, I'm just wondering what it looks. So what are we looking at?
You are spot on that, and I'll give that to you. Yeah. Now, we've looked at all of these issues. Like I did mention, what we'll be doing with use of gas for vehicles is going to be completely different. Once you get your vehicle converted by a certified conversion center, for the fact that you are worried that you're going to be seated on a time bomb that will explode, you don't go to uncertified conversion center for maintenance of a vehicle. So there will be a list on Standard Organization website and DPR website to say, these are the certified conversion centers. Now, the onus is on you as the car owner to make sure that each time your vehicle is due for maintenance, let's assume you travel for a wedding, you're based in Abuja, you're in Lagos for a wedding with your vehicle, and you find out, oh, I was supposed to do my maintenance. You must go to a certified conversion center to make sure that they check your vehicle, not to the mechanic village that we talked about.
Why can't you convert the mechanic village, train and retrain them?
Good question. So I was coming to that.
So that this policy is, pardon this, but so that it's not seen as being dead on arrival for the majority of vehicle owners. Because as you are saying now, go to a certified, somebody will just say, this one are for big men, I don't do for this wahala. That's the
so that's the point. Now, it's not about big men wahala. It doesn't cost anything for you to do your maintenance for a typical converted vehicle that's running on gas. The second strand we're looking to, because, whilst Mr. President, the Honourable Minister's drive is to get people out of poverty and create employment for people, we don't want people to lose their jobs. So the second phase in our discussion with Automotive Mechanics Association and all the rest of them is to make sure that we upscale their competence and get them certified to, of course, carry out maintenance on vehicles that are running on autogas. So all those plans are in place. But for this first phase, we need to get it right. You must go to a certified conversion center to get your vehicle converted, and while we carry out the upscaling of the existing mechanic villages across the country. They are there. Some people want to say, if I go to this vehicle maintenance center, it's going to be 60,000 naira, and this mechanic village guy will do it for 5,000. That will change, because to do the conversion or to carry out maintenance, it's not more of something we're looking at the benzene or the wear and tear of your vehicle. The gas does not, the amount of gas, auto gas saves you from the wear and tear of your vehicle compared to petrol. The benzene and all those things that comes up with regard to speed up the engine, all of these are not there. So in terms of maintenance, the cost is minimal, which is why we say you even save up to 40-45% of that in terms of maintenance and using gas, which is a cleaner fuel.
Maintenance, let's be specific. You're talking about the engine, You're talking engine maintenance. That's what you are saying.
Correct.
It doesn't relate to the wheels and then which is a function of the roads on which you are driving.
Which, by the way, the same mechanics who have the same competence to address that. So if you go to a conversion bay, like we have in every typical fuel station, they have the technicians. Now you have the guy that will check the auto gas configuration, and then you have one or two other guys that will check balancing of your wheels. Now, your fear, is it the balancing of the wheels or to make sure that they are actually carrying out proper maintenance on the auto gas? So the competence will be there, and all this personnel, of course, it is division of labor. The wheel balancing man will be there to do his work, that the auto gas technician will be there to do his maintenance.
I don't know, Dixon. Yes. Let's bring you. You have a vehicle. Justice is speaking very well. It's clear. But when you go to a mechanic village, or you patronize any there are specializations.
Yes.
There are mechanics will tell you that they deal with Japanese vehicles. Even amongst Japanese vehicles, they will tell you that one will tell you that it is Honda that he works on. Another will tell you Toyota. Or some other brand. Others would tell you in those days that it was Peugeot that they specialize in. So,
Mercedes.
You have them like that. So the German vehicles that they work on. How this is early days still. So how does a person get out of this subsidized and they say that, look, I'm going to that auto center, conversion center after it's been converted for my regular maintenance. The vehicles have their own they have their own features. You are driving some vehicles, you see every time the wheel comes off, because of some design defect and all that. As a vehicle owner, what would be your concerns?
Well, the truth of the matter is that what we are talking about is not rocket science. We all go to the mechanical villages to patronize them. When you go there, possibly after checking your engines, your light may not be functioning well. They'll call an auto electrician to check that.
They call him auto rewire.
What are you? Then, even when the auto rewire tries to fix your vehicle, if it's not able to do it, he will call someone that has the computer to check what is the brain box or whatever, to check that. To put it in a layman language, to me, the gas issue is not as complex as we are seeing it. It's very simple.
Very simple.
For example, when you talk about the source generator, in my house, I use gas to power my generator. And how do I do it? It's simple. I have the regular 12.5 kg of cylinder. And then there's what they call dual carburetor. It's about 5,000 naira or 8,500 naira on Jumia. Sorry to mention it's just there in the market.
Okay.
All you need to do, take that dual fuel LPG carburetor and put it on where you have the carburetor. Just change it. You can do it yourself. You don't need to go. You don't need to call anybody.
You don't need a technical know-how to do it.
It's as simple as that.
Just hang on. Let our viewers be advised. Don't do it yourself. Just in case there are hazards.
You call a technician to do that.
Okay.
You call a technician just to change the carburetor.
Because I don't want them to say it was said on Good Morning Nigeria that I can do it.
You just get the technician to change the carburetor.
Yeah.
Just as you light your gas, that is the way. You just on the what's it called? The cylinder. If you use the key to start or you pull, you just pull and you have power. The only difference between the petrol generator and that of the LPG is that if you're supposed to have about 2.5 kilowatts of power from petrol, from that of gas, you will have less, maybe about 2.2. So also it applies when it comes to issue of vehicle. It's as simple as that. Just as Justice has said, if you're going on the road, if you want to use fuel, you just switch over to CNG. Some of us have vehicles that have dual fuel tanks. When one is going so low, when it's almost off, you just switch over to the other tank. And that's how this thing is.
I would like you to speak further, because part of the auto gas has also to do with operating generating sets.
Yes.
So the minister, as our guest a couple of weeks ago, spoke about that. When you say that it's the way you strike strike a match to light up your stove, your cooking stove, 12.5. Now, there are issues about distancing. Okay, what is the distance between your generator and your gas? You need a pipe. Is it the same flexi pipe that you need? Just hang on, you will take the questions. Is it the same flexi pipe that you need? And then if you have the standard 12.5 kg, how many hours can that run?
Okay, it all depends on the usage. If well of that same value, 12.5 kg is about 3,800 or 4,200, depending on where you're buying it from. And equivalent of that in petrol is about 160 divided by 4,000. For example, you estimate the amount of fuel it will afford you. Now, for example, if I may not be right with my mathematics, 4,000 naira worth of fuel will give you about 20 liters. Yeah. Am I correct?
Let's sort it out. I mean, we can
Yes.
get that done straight away. So 4,000.
Yeah,
Let's say 4,000
naira worth of fuel.
Of gas.
Of petrol, no, of petrol.
Of petrol. 4,000 naira.
What? 4,000 divided by
160.
Yeah, yes.
Divided by 160, that's 25.
That's about 25
liters.
That's about 25 liters. Now, it also depends on the capacity of your generator. If your generator is 7.5, that is barely about 18 hours of gas. 18 hours of power.
Power, yes.
Now, if you are using gas, instead of 18 hours, it will give you about 26 hours.
An additional 8 hours.
That same value.
That same value.
That same value.
4,000
4,000 naira of petrol gives about 18 hours. 4,000 naira of gas gives you about 26 hours.
That's good news for businesses across.
No, that's what it is.
26, 27 hours.
Okay, fine. Justice, earlier you said that the Honourable Minister is also using that, or some other person is using gas.
To convert his vehicles.
He has converted all the vehicles in the
vehicles. Now I'm talking about generating sets.
Yes.
Yes. What kind of generating set? Because, I'm sure what we are referring to here now
is I pass my neighbor.
I better pass my neighbor.
I better pass my neighbor.
XY. But if you then start talking about higher capacity generators, 25 kVA, 30 kVA, or 40 kVA, is this available? Because those ones use diesel.
Oh yes, it's available, and that was what I was going to speak to prior now, because just like he mentioned, he uses it to power his generator. Now the LPG cylinder, you can actually use it to power your house, and of course power your kitchen for cooking. So it multi-functions. And that is what the Honourable Minister was saying, that even a Pass My Neighbour can run on LPG and your generator as well. So those are the benefits, like we did mention, that using gas will bring in. And in the National Gas Expansion Program, we have domestic LPG utilization as well.
So let me ask a crazy question here. Do we still need
what do you call the question?
Do we still need engine oil for our engines when we use gas?
No, you don't. That's what I said. So all of those issues, so all the additional savings,
yes,
the cost implications, so all those will not be there. So you see huge amount of savings.
No, sorry. No, so what was your question?
I asked him if we can still use engine oil when we're using gas.
No,
but if you say
the engine oil is to clean up debris, deposits, as a result of using petrol and diesel.
Okay.
Gas is a cleaner fuel, so it does not place any deposit on your piston and rings. That's why I say that.
But how do you lubricate the friction?
Yeah, there are special fluids that will be used during
not
maintenance.
Engine oil.
Which is why I was saying that when you take your car to a mechanic, if you're using petrol, if you go there every month or every quarter, for gas, you go there every 6 months. Yeah.
So what if you're using both fuel?
Oh, well, so if you use both, it depends on the usability in terms of the frequency for petrol and gas. So that way, there will be some, of course, deposits to be there from using petrol. Obviously, you can't take that away.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. They're very, very interesting.
And I'll tell another benefit again that if
you
want
what is the benefit?
We'll
pause you in the meantime so that we can take a commercial break. And when we return, we'll continue with the conversation.
Good.
A new edition of TV Guide is out, featuring great personalities from all walks of life. Expository interview with a young TV presenter who shows passion on what she does, Morayo Afolabi Brown of TVC. Pick a copy of this compendium of mind-blowing stories and get abreast with issues as regards media convergence, leadership, health, star profiles, star programs, fashion, sports, human angle stories, and lots more. Meet some media professionals within our space who have paid their dues in no small ways. TV Guide, very incisive, very educative and compelling. Grab a copy at the vendor near you or NTA stations nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
Welcome back, and we've been discussing auto gas policy in Nigeria. You were saying something earlier, Mr. Justice, about the safety of people not stealing your fuel from your car.
Okay.
If you're using gas.
Yeah. So we know that petrol, somebody can tamper with your petrol in a vehicle or heavy-duty trucks if you send your team on a mission to travel maybe from Port Harcourt up north to Kaduna and all of those. But with gas, nobody can tamper with your fuel. So it remains intact. That's another benefit that businesses and even vehicle owners will be happy to have. So that issue is equally is there. And then the other bit is that you save almost half using fuel as opposed to what you use gas, depending on the kilometer driven. Okay. For 100 kilometer, 50 kilometer. For 100 kilometer, if you're saving around 46,000 naira, for 50 kilometers, you're saving around 23,000 naira. So there's a lot of savings in that regard. We understand, the Honourable Minister understood the concerns Nigerians have with respect to safety. And he has not rested on his oars to always. So even in the National Gas Expansion Program, we have a representative from the Standard Organization of Nigeria in the NGEP, as well as DPRO in that committee. So the next thing people will want to ask is, are you sure gas price is not going to increase over time?
Yes, that's the million-dollar question.
Exactly. And I'll tell you that it will not. So what we're doing is to make sure that there are a lot of stranded gas molecules that we need to bring on into the market to crash the price further down. So at the end of the day, you find out that, just like the DPRO director stated, like that by 2022, only the rich will be driving their cars on petrol.
No, but tell us, I mean, when you say that gas prices will crash, what are we doing about the supply end? Because even for regular power supply, one of the issues you keep hearing from time to time, although not so much in recent times, is, the GENCOs don't have enough gas being supplied to them. And if GENCOs don't generate, DISCOs have money to distribute. So are we tidying up the supply end? Because one of the key issues in the supply end also has to do with pricing.
Yes.
Good. Valid question, in particular pricing, because that's one thing people want to listen to going forward. Now, in terms of GENCOs complaining about they don't have gas, we have enough gas. Matter of fact, like I did mention, we're a gas nation more than crude oil.
Yes.
We just have a drop of crude oil as opposed to the 203 trillion cubic feet of gas proven that we have in this country. So what we're doing in that regard, NNPC generate a lot of gas. Sometimes they don't take it. So the issue about power and the GENCO, let's leave that one today because it will take us another 3 hours to discuss and address. It's a hydrometer issue, which, of course, the Ministry of Power, working with the Ministry of Petroleum Resources, are resolving.
I think it's a very, very, very
So let me come to the pricing issue about gas.
Yes.
Now, so for a typical gas right now, if you look at it, from the wellhead, upstream, midstream to downstream, it passes through different funnels. Now, what we're doing is to make sure that we bring enough gas and create an enabling environment for investment to thrive, which is what the National Gas Policy is addressing. So right as we speak now, there is a committee reviewing the domestic gas supply pricing regulations 2008, headed by the CEO of Gas and Power, Engineer Yusuf, and co-chaired by DPRO. What we're trying to do is to bring down the price of gas further down so that the end user gets it cheaper, which is what the Honourable Minister wants, the federal government wants, and at the end of the day, you find out that gas will become readily available in every nooks and crannies of this country. So that is being looked at, and the National Gas Policy actually picked that up to say gas pricing need to be taken care of, and of course the sanctity of gas contracts, which is another issue that we are equally looking at. So all those issues are there to address, and just to further buttress on the issue around mechanics and technicians, the National Gas Policy equally picks that up to make sure that we develop human capacity to make sure that we have these technical people, competent Nigerians that maybe medium, high, and above high level competence to address, to have the community in the gas space. And that is predominantly what the Petroleum Technology Development Fund is doing and the Nigerian Local Content Monitoring Board, to make sure that we have the right capacity, the right personnel to have them in place for all of this. So the pricing issue will be done, and I'll give a typical example. When GSM came into this country, it was too expensive. It was I remember somebody buying a SIM for 35,000. Now SIM is free. Thank you. SIM is free. And that every person now has a phone. And that is what will happen with the gas. Okay. Because we have the molecules, and that is what the NGP is doing to get it into the market and crash the price further down.
Thank you very much, Justice. I hope you also remember that there were consumer protests against the GSM service providers.
Yes.
Including a boycott of their services at some point. So it wasn't as if it just worked out automatically and then suddenly prices just crashed.
So I'm sure it didn't surprise you for me to mention that because lessons were learned from that. And we took that on board because when we were doing the diagnostics to use autogas, we looked at a whole lot of scenario. And we were able to arrive at a sweet spot. And that's what we were running with.
Okay, let's look at the subnational level now. Do you have pilot states where the conversion would take place, or it's going to start nationwide, widespread?
Okay, so as part of the Honourable Minister's Rural Plan, which of course will be kicked off by Mr. President in Q4, we have locations across the 6 geopolitical zones where there will have been co-location of the products and there will be conversion centers ready to convert vehicles. It's going to be telecast live. NTA will be there, of course. So you'll see that. I'm lobbying you to be there, of course. So you see it live, and then you see that vehicles will be converted. Now, apart from using government-owned refueling stations, other third-party stations are equally keen into this to say, hey, don't take us out of business. Can you tell Nigerians that our station, as at that day, is now ready for multi-fuel station, and that we equally have conversion kits? Yeah. Like I did mention, over 1 million conversion kits are in country to be used for the rollout, and then subsequently we'll go out in phases.
Colonel of Innocent Motors, Colonel Osigwe via Skype, if it's still there with us. I just earlier you were talking about the readiness of Innocent to begin working on all of this, but just tell us, are there concerns that as a motor manufacturing company you would have about auto gas, or it's something that you can readily switch to with your new vehicles coming off your assembly lines?
I can't hear you clearly.
My question is, as an auto manufacturing company, are there concerns that you have with regard to the proposed use of auto gas for vehicles in Nigeria now that it's going to be popularized? Are there concerns that you have, or are there issues you would like addressed?
No, there are no concerns at all. Like we said, we are aware that this technology is being implemented by other Western communities in Europe, in America. So it's not something that is new to the, it's not something that is entirely new. So we are aware that this kind of thing has been in existence, and we have studied it and see that it's something that Nigeria actually needs. Because we have a large reservation, we have a large resources for the LPG. So it's something that is actually reduce the burden on the fuel usage in the country. So I don't think there are any concerns for us for now.
Colonel, I mean, I know that this is a matter of your corporate business decision, but if you recognize the advantages of auto gas, and the government has had pilot schemes in Benin City and in Rivers, why didn't you say, okay, some of the new vehicles we are rolling off our assembly lines will be dual fuel, will have dual fuel capabilities such as LPG and petrol? Why didn't you take the decision before now if you recognize the huge benefits?
Please, can you repeat your question, sir?
I say that I recognize that this is a matter of corporate business decision. But since you have highlighted the benefits of auto gas, and the government had, before now, had pilot schemes in Benin City for use of auto gas as well as in Rivers, why didn't you, as Innocent Motors, say for some of our vehicles that are coming off our assembly line, maybe you say your SUVs 2020 will have dual fuel purpose capabilities? Why didn't you use that?
Okay, like I said, that we are studying the scheme and the wide acceptance that the acceptability from Nigerians. Like I said earlier, that what we do is to manufacture the carcasses of the body of a vehicle, that's the carcass, and that on the engine that we buy from the engine manufacturers. And you know, that as a vehicle manufacturing plant, that we have ordered some engines before this scheme was introduced. But as we are studying the scheme, if it's something that is widely acceptable in Nigeria, our future plans, we are going to put the production of these convertible engines that uses fuel and gas, we are going to put them into future consideration in telling our engine manufacturers that this is the way to go.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Colonel. But you wanted to respond to what you were saying, if you come in.
I think this is business. It's just an issue of enlightenment. Let me digress a little. We know the benefit of using gas to power our generator, but some persons can't go into it because of the initial cost. The carburetor I told you of, for example, is about 5,000 to 8,000 naira, and you need to get a new cylinder. All the government needs to do, when they push this into the market aggressively, and the people come to see the benefit, naturally they'll just key into it. Justice is here. They have several committees. Let me say I'm not part of the committees. All they need to do is to move into the market aggressively. What we are talking here with the analysis and all that, it's not rocket science. We have kids that discover certain things, many things, even those that didn't even go to school. They are some of the best mechanics we have that repair our
vehicles.
Yes, our vehicles. If the government come out to say, gentlemen, we have this skill acquisition program, come and learn this thing. You don't need to go to university to learn how to convert, to retrofit a gas cylinder. It's simple, it's not as difficult as that. Though he's trying to lay the ground, regularly, normally for a vehicle, if you retrofit the gas cylinder, there are basic things that are there, naturally. You have the automatic shut-off valve, like we in the LPG business. You have the automatic shut-off valve, you have the pressure relief valves, and those little two valves. There are things that are there to checkmate issues of accidents and safety and what have you. So let the government just push in this aggressively into the market. I am in Port Harcourt. Sincerely, I have not seen any CNG plant that sells CNG or station that sells CNG. I don't know of any here in Abuja. It may exist. But if they come and aggressively put in there, what are the resources, what are the infrastructures that you need? They are simple. You need a regular tank.
That tank that costs $600,000.
That tank, we call it forming machine. We call it forming machine. I thought that that's the forming machine. That's part of the infrastructures that we need, or mechanical that we need. The tank that you need at the LPG tank, at the LPG station, the co-location station, if it's a regular skid plant, the regular skid plant, it is from 12 to 27 million naira. It all depends on the facilities that are there in the skid plant. If not, it's not as expensive as people think. But what I'm trying to say is this. We can drive this and achieve this and create jobs for we Nigerians, make gas very popular. CNG, he would say, is cheaper than LPG. Yes. So if you are buying LPG for 3,800 naira for 12.5 kg, by the time you start using CNG of that equivalent, it will be far cheaper. But the point is this, we are not seeing the infrastructure on ground.
So, sorry.
Let them aggressively push them in.
Dixon.
We, the local manufacturers, are there to support them. What do they need? Is it the LPG tanks? Is it the CNG tanks, the regular tanks, kit and plants? We can produce them.
Okay, just hang on. Justice, let's clarify this, because, gases have different properties and therefore different uses. This one, where I'm hearing now that you can use LPG for cooking, LPG to power your generator, CNG is cheaper. Which one? The weathers will tell you. You can, like gas, for instance, oxygen gas, the one you want to use in hospitals. Those ones, they're different. They are different. The butane. So which is which? So that people don't go and start getting the wrong gas, and then the next thing you are having safety issues and concerns.
So that won't happen.
And then Nigerians will just tell you, this thing, which they follow up.
Getting the wrong gas that won't happen, and that is why we have the likes of the Department of Petroleum Resources, because you must get an operational permit from DPRO to sell the right gas. LPG for cooking, which we call the domestic LPG, and then the autogas, which is predominantly propane. So from a scientific point of view, is C3H6, three carbon molecules, and of course hydrogen. Now, for the compressed natural gas, which is mainly for natural gas vehicles and LNG. So let me just try to explain in a layman term. The natural gas is like the football that we have in the pitch. The CNG is now, this ball is now compressed to look like a table tennis. That is a compressed natural gas. So that you can readily use it for your vehicle and of course for power and other prime movers. So they have a different configuration and they have a different standards of compression and temperature and pressure that is infused into the different tanks.
Okay.
So which one is used to power generator? Is it the same one you use for cooking or auto gas or CNG? Let's clarify that, because we've been saying since that it is easy to it says it's easy to convert. Go and get the carburetor. Get an expert, by the way. Let's
correct.
Say that again.
Very correct. We corrected that.
Convert it for you. Get your 12.5 kg gas cylinder. Put it there. Just connect, and your generator is running. It will give you additional 8 hours of power versus petrol. So, which gas is that one? Is it the same LPG you go and buy for 3,800 in Abuja here? Or is it specialized gas? So that, anyway, I'm sure that these are issues
it's
that...
one and the same gas. It's propane.
Okay, propane. So what should be the state of your car if you want to convert? Should it be any rickety car, or your car needs to be standard?
Good question. Brilliant question.
Yes.
Now, which is why when you're driving, that's 6 hours they take. First, they do a test to check. They do a diagnosis to say, is this car fit for conversion?
Okay.
So once they arrive at that, they'll now say, okay, it's fit for conversion. And then they ask you, by the way, I didn't mention this. Now, while you can convert your vehicle to run on dual fuel, you can actually go for a conversion that has both LPG and CNG. Okay. So if you go to a fuel station and you see CNG, you can say, okay, my autogas, this thing can run on LPG or CNG, and CNG is like it's cheaper today. So I go for CNG. So there are such conversions that run on LPG and CNG as well. Okay. So all of that are taken care of. So that's what we have. So you won't have the issue where you will say anybody can just sell this CNG and LPG. No, DPR will come after you. And that's what DPR is there. And of course, because for you to have those co-location, you get a DPR permit, and there are basic standards you must meet where you keep the gas dispensers from the petrol dispenser for safety reasons. And like I did mention, which he alluded to, is that the conversion tanks have multi-valve configuration to address various issues. For all these autogas tanks that are made of steel, like I did mention, they are 20 times reinforced compared to the petrol tank. So a ballistic test was carried out for all of this. So if you shoot a bullet into a typical tank, it won't penetrate.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that could also be good, because those who use the vehicles for different purposes may not therefore have the advantage.
Correct.
We have a number of tweets that have come in, by the way, Juba. Yeah. Let's go through them and then get a closing thoughts from our guests. Dele Jack Solomon. Nigeria is an oil-dependent economy. The impact of this development on oil price hike will obviously spill over onto government finances to other economic facets. This is not a particularly relevant tweet. I'll skip that, yes.
And Leo Fadaka tweets, use of autogas is cost-effective and will put a stop to gas flaring, which is counterproductive and impacts climate change.
Festus Akimboyewa, millions of vehicles run on autogas worldwide, and Nigeria should benefit from this clean energy, especially when the cost of autogas is lower than the price of normal petrol and diesel. Now, since engine conversions are pricey, the federal government must help those who want to convert their vehicles to autogas. Although LPG doesn't get as high a mileage as petrol, Nigerians should be encouraged to go for it because it's cheap and pollution-free.
Yes, and Law Alpha C tweets, conversion of many vehicles to use autogas will reduce the pressure on PMS and diesel, and their prices will be forced to come down. So it's a welcome development, provided our moribund refineries will be revamped.
Adabu Kacha. Any development that will make life easy for Nigerians is welcome. My question is about maintenance. I think our guests have been speaking to the issues of maintenance, even though...
Yes, Maya Yako tweets, the issue with autogas in Nigeria lies on non-workability of our local refineries. Whether liquefied petroleum gas is cheaper or dearer, then premium motor spirit is very immaterial. What Nigerians want is massive investment in the sector that will lead to establishment of refineries in different parts of the country. This would lead to competitions, reduction in prices, employment creations, synergistic forward and backward positive linkages, and reduction in pipeline vandalism.
Titus Mondeno, it's my sincere hope that government will deploy the necessary tools for the migration from these hard fuels, petrol and diesel, to compressed natural gas.
Ibrahim Modo Aji, I think that has been answered. Yes, autogas can be used as fuel source for generators in our homes. Ibrahim Abdusalam tweets, this is a commendable initiative. If well implemented, it will go a long way to reduce the pressure on PMS. But my concern is the possible risks charged and the workability given the nature of our society.
Mutana Farouk also has a tweet. Mark John has another tweet. Aliu Karaye, it says, what will be the cost of conversion of petrol engines to gas?
And Hassan Sadiq, thank you so much for your tweets.
Average cost?
Yes, how much will
of conversion?
Well, it depends on the vehicle. So the cost is between around 190, 200,000 naira to 300,000 naira. Now, if it's a four-cylinder and much more higher than four-cylinder, the price goes a bit higher. So that's just a range.
Sorry, say that price again. The conversion again.
So the Nigerians will...
For a typical conversion, it's around 190,000 to 250. Now, it could go higher depending on the vehicle and the cylinder your car runs on.
So it's not
once it is on SUV, it will go higher. No question about that.
Well, that's how I'm saying that. Of course, you know that. So that's what it means.
All right. So...
on that note?
Yeah, on that note, we'd like to appreciate our three guests.
I think we don't need to be scared of
the cost.
The cost of conversion, because I overheard the Honourable Minister saying that government is going to subsidize it and possibly it will be paid. You will pay for it over time, not immediately. I don't know if justice.
What is the accounting procedure for you paying for it over time? Let's. Those are details that will be sorted out once the policy is fully rolled out.
Indeed, like the minister said, yes.
In the fourth quarter. But we do know that there are a number of issues. Interesting. One more time. These are early days. It's a novel idea, and we're just trying to explore the perimeter of the issues surrounding the use of autogas, much more popularly now than the pilot schemes that have proven successful in places where they have been launched. Would like to thank our three guests who've been with us on the program this morning. Dixon, the warrior man, who's a local fabricator of LPG tanks. Thank you very much for being with us this morning. Via Zoom, we're joined by Cornell Osigwe, Head Corporate Communications of Innocent Motors. We appreciate your being with us. And Justice Dere Faka, Technical Advisor to the Minister of State Petroleum. And we'd like to thank you also for being with us on Good Morning Nigeria. All right, so that does it for us. We're back tomorrow, same time as always, 7 in the morning. Until then, take personal responsibility, stay safe and be well. Coronavirus isn't out yet.
And I'm Jimo Yusuf.